You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. We have seen in previous classes how Jesus has told us not that we will be the light, but that we are the light of the world. So Jesus is speaking to us from an eternal dimension and from where he already knew us and met us. Now, here he is speaking to a multitude that are not his disciples, and he says to them, you are the light. But he's also saying something else. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. He's speaking to them from an eternal dimension, and he says, you are the light that is based in a very large city, and that's why cannot be hidden. Jesus is establishing here the principle of where a light is placed, and he is the origin of light. Jesus is the light, and the way he projects his light is from the holy mountain of Zion. So what he's telling us is, you are the light and you are the city within me. He goes on and say, no one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, but on a lampstand, so it gives light to all who are in the house. Our perception is not the perception of 3 dimensions, but we need a perception as heaven sees. When I think of me being a light, obviously my light is not going to radiate like I was in the Mount of Transfiguration as I walked the streets. But God is talking about a light that is dwelling within us since before the foundation of the world. So God is speaking directly to our spirit, who we were before the world was made. It says in John 8, verse 12, again Jesus spoke to them saying, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. If I put it in other words, because we are the light, what Jesus is saying here is that he who follows me will connect himself with who he was before the foundation of the world. And then he says in verse 14, Jesus answered and said to them, even if I am bearing witness concerning myself, my testimony is true, because I know from where I come and where I am going. But you do not know from where I come and where I am going. So it says here that he who follows Jesus will reconnect with this light. And since he is the light, therefore, he knows where he comes from and where he goes. Then also those who are of the light know where they come from and where they go to. We come from God, and we also come from the heavenly city. Before you came onto this earth, before you set foot on this planet, you were perfectly alive and created in the city of God. That's why Jesus says, you are the light of the world, which is seated in the city and in the holy mountain. John 12:35 says, then Jesus told them, for a little while longer the light will be among you. Walk while you have the light, so that darkness will not overtake you. The one who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. While you have the light, believe in the light, so that you may become sons of light. What he's saying here is that the light is in their midst because Jesus is the light. And not knowing where we are going has to do with darkness. Here it is saying something very interesting. It is not saying, believe me, like in the physical person of Jesus Christ, but he's saying, as long as you have the light, believe in the light. So how can we believe in the light? He has just established here some very clear principles. Light has to do with the city and with the holy mountain. And he that walks in the light knows where he came from and where he's going. Then when I believe in the light, I have to understand and know how the city of light operates. I'm going to read you from a passage of the Apocrypha, from the Gospel of Thomas. His disciples say, show us your place because it is necessary that we look for it. He tells them, he who has ears, let him hear. Within a man of light, there is light, and he illuminates the world. When he does not shine, there is darkness. So where there is darkness in our cities and in our nations, maybe it has to do with the fact that the children of light have not understood how to be light. Let us return to Matthew chapter 5 and verse 16. Thus let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in the heavens. Now Jesus came as the manifestation of the light and the manifestation of the city, because he just said that the light is not hidden, but is placed in the city on the mount. So Jesus came to bring us the heavenly city, and he showed and presented it in his own person. He came from the city, he lived in the city, and he was returning to the city. This is where we should not think in 3 dimensions. When we think about the city in the New Jerusalem, the heavenly city, then we imagine a beautiful city where we can walk and where there are streets of gold and where there is a sea of crystal. But that's the way it was expressed to a 3-dimensional mind. But the city is not in 3 dimensions because heaven does not have 3 dimensions. And that's where the great mystery of God comes in. And this mystery is that God in all his fullness can be within a man. And the whole universe can be inside of a man. And at this same time, as a human being, we are inside of him and all of his greatness. So here as well, we are looking at something that is not of 3 dimensions. We can have all of him in us and at the same time be completed in him. And in the same way is with the city. I can be in the city and the city can be in me. And when I can conceive the city in me, I know where I came from and where I'm going. A city is called a city because it has a government. Therefore, the city of God implies the kingdom and implies the government of God. So a government exists because it establishes justice. If justice is not established, the government does not make sense. And if there is no government, it is just a bunch of farmer houses in a valley. And we can see this from a point of view of the church today. And it means that there are a lot of villages. There are denominations, there are diverse churches, and they're waiting for a government to come. But the city came to unify all its citizens. When we begin to perceive and receive and appreciate and sense and discern and become aware of the city, when we can caress it, when we can cherish it, the city becomes visible and it's made tangible to the extent that her children embrace her. When we conceive, understand, and comprehend it, when we nurture and feed ourselves from it, we bring it in our midst. What I want you to see is that Jesus and the city are intimately and deeply related. And if I have Jesus really living and dwelling inside of me, I have the city living in me as well. But our 3-dimensional and theological mentality does not allow us to conceive this as something real here on earth.